What if I told you that your consciousness isn't produced by your brain, but that your brain is actually a receiver for consciousness that exists in the quantum field? And what if the latest research from Princeton, Stanford, and the Institute of Noetic Sciences proves that your awareness can literally change physical reality at the quantum level? In this video, I'm going to show you 5 groundbreaking experiments that prove consciousness is fundamental to reality, not just an accident of evolution. And by the end of this video, we'll understand exactly how your awareness interfaces with the quantum field to create your experience of reality. But here's what's crazy. This research has been suppressed by mainstream science for decades because it threatens everything we think we know about the nature of reality. I'm Awiri the Great, and this is Quantum Reality Lab, where we bridge cutting-edge consciousness research with practical applications. And what I'm about to share isn't theory or speculation. These are peer-reviewed studies published in the world's most prestigious scientific journals. But before we dive in, I need to warn you, once you understand what consciousness actually is and how it works, you can never go back to thinking you're just a biological machine in a mechanical universe. This knowledge will fundamentally change how you see yourself and your relationship to reality. And at the end of this video, I'm going to reveal the most important experiment ever conducted on consciousness. One that proves your thoughts can influence events that happened in the past. Yes, you heard that right. The past. So if you're ready to discover what science actually proves about consciousness and reality, stay with me. Because what you're about to learn will give you a completely new understanding of your own power and potential. Experiment number 1. The quantum observer effect. Let's start with the experiment that changed everything. In 1998, researchers at the Weizmann Institute of Science conducted what's now known as the quantum double-slit experiment with consciousness observation. But first, let me ask you something. Do you think reality exists independently of your observation of it? Most people would say yes, but quantum physics proves otherwise. Here's what they did. They fired individual photons, particles of light, through 2 slits toward a detector screen. When no one was watching, the photons behaved like waves, creating an interference pattern that showed they went through both slits simultaneously. But here's where it gets mind-bending. The moment they placed a detector to observe which slit the photon went through, the wave pattern disappeared. The photon started behaving like a particle, going through only one slit. Think about what this means. The act of conscious observation literally changed the behavior of matter at the quantum level. The photon existed in a state of infinite possibility until consciousness collapsed it into a single reality. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but that's just tiny particles. What does this have to do with my life? Well, here's the thing. Everything in your body, everything in your environment, everything in the entire universe is made of these quantum particles. And if consciousness can influence quantum particles, then consciousness can influence everything. But that's just the beginning. Wait until you see what happens when we scale this up. Experiment number 2. Global Consciousness Project. The second experiment I want to show you was conducted by Princeton University over a period of 20 years. It's called the Global Consciousness Project, and it proves that collective human consciousness can influence physical systems on a global scale. Here's what they did. They placed random number generators in 70 locations around the world. These machines are designed to produce completely random sequences of ones and zeros, like electronic coin flips. Under normal circumstances, the output should be completely random, with no patterns whatsoever. But Dr. Roger Nelson and his team discovered something extraordinary. During major global events that captured the attention of millions of people simultaneously, the random number generators started producing non-random patterns. During the 9/11 attacks, when billions of people around the world were focused on the same tragic event, the machines showed significant deviations from randomness. The same thing happened during the 2004 tsunami, the death of Princess Diana, and even during major sporting events like the World Cup finals. Let me be clear about what this means. When large numbers of people focus their consciousness on the same event, it creates a measurable effect on physical systems thousands of miles away. Collective consciousness literally influences matter. Now, if you're a skeptic, you might be thinking this is just coincidence. But they've documented over 500 of these events with statistical significance that's off the charts. The odds of this being random are less than 1 in a billion. But here's what's really exciting. If collective consciousness can influence physical reality, imagine what focused individual consciousness can do. And that brings us to our third experiment. Experiment number 3, remote viewing research. The third experiment was conducted by Stanford Research Institute and funded by the CIA for over 20 years. It's called remote viewing, and it proves that consciousness can access information beyond the limitations of space and time. Now, I know what you're thinking. Remote viewing sounds like psychic nonsense. But this research was conducted by some of the most rigorous scientists in the world, including physicists Harold Puthoff and Russell Targ, and it was published in peer-reviewed journals. Here's how it worked. I would take a person, called a remote viewer, and place them in a sealed room with no access to outside information. Then they would give them coordinates, just numbers, and ask them to describe what was at that location. The results were absolutely stunning. Remote viewers could accurately describe buildings, landscapes, and even activities happening at locations thousands of miles away. In one famous case, a remote viewer accurately described a Soviet nuclear facility that the CIA didn't even know existed. Now, you might be wondering how this is possible. How can consciousness access information that's not available through normal sensory channels? The answer lies in what physicists call quantum entanglement and non-locality. At the quantum level, particles that have interacted remain connected regardless of the distance between them. When you change one particle, the other particle changes instantaneously, even if it's on the other side of the universe. Consciousness appears to operate through similar non-local principles. Your awareness isn't confined to your brain or your body. It's connected to a field of information that exists beyond space and time. And this brings us to the most important question. If consciousness can access information beyond space and time, can it also influence events beyond space and time? The answer will blow your mind. Experiment number 4. Biological systems research. The fourth experiment was conducted by Dr. William Broad at the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. And it proves that human intention can influence living biological systems. Dr. Broad took human red blood cells and placed them in a solution that would normally cause them to burst. Then he had people focus their intention on protecting the cells from destruction. The results were remarkable. When people focused their intention on protecting the cells, significantly fewer cells were destroyed compared to control groups where no intention was applied. Human consciousness was literally protecting biological systems at the cellular level. But it gets even more interesting. They replicated this experiment with bacteria, plants, and even small animals. In every case, focused human intention produced measurable effects on biological systems. Now, think about what this means for your own body. If consciousness can influence other biological systems, what effect is your consciousness having on your own cells, your own health, and your own biological processes? Dr. Joe Dispenza's research has shown that when people engage in specific meditation practices, they can measurably change their gene expression, their immune function, and even their brain structure within a matter of weeks. But here's where it gets really exciting. If consciousness can influence biological systems, and if everything in your environment is made of the same quantum particles that respond to consciousness, then your awareness is constantly influencing your reality in ways you've never imagined. And this brings us to the most mind-bending experiment of all, one that proves consciousness can influence events that have already happened in the past. Experiment number 5. Retroactive psychokinesis. The fifth and most incredible experiment was conducted by Dr. Helmut Schmidt and later replicated by researchers around the world. It's called retroactive psychokinesis, and it proves that consciousness can influence events that occurred in the past. Here's how it worked. Dr. Schmidt used a random number generator to create sequences of random events that were recorded but not observed by anyone. These recordings were stored for weeks or even months. Then, at a later date, people were asked to use their intention to influence these pre-recorded random sequences toward specific patterns. Remember, these events had already happened and were already recorded. They were in the past. The results defied everything we think we know about time and causality. People were able to significantly influence the random sequences that had been generated in the past. Consciousness was literally reaching backward in time to influence events that had already occurred. I know this sounds impossible. It challenges our basic understanding of cause and effect, of time, of reality itself. But this experiment has been replicated dozens of times by independent researchers with consistent results. What this suggests is that consciousness exists outside of linear time. From the perspective of consciousness, past, present, and future are all equally accessible. The quantum field that consciousness interfaces with transcends our normal experience of temporal sequence. Think about what this means for your life. If consciousness can influence the past, then every moment of focused intention is potentially reshaping not just your future, but your entire timeline. Your awareness is far more powerful than you've ever imagined. What this means for your life. Now you might be wondering, this is all fascinating, but how does this apply to my daily life? How can I use this knowledge practically? Here is what these 5 experiments prove beyond any doubt. Consciousness is not a byproduct of brain activity. Consciousness is a fundamental force in the universe that can influence matter, energy, space, and time. You are not a powerless observer of reality. You are an active participant in creating reality. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every intention you hold is literally influencing the quantum field around you. You're constantly collapsing infinite possibilities into specific experiences through the focus of your awareness. But here's the crucial question. Are you doing this consciously and intentionally, or are you doing it unconsciously and randomly? Most people are unconsciously creating their reality through scattered attention, conflicting beliefs, and emotional chaos. They're like someone trying to tune a radio while constantly changing the frequency. They get static instead of clear reception. But when you understand how consciousness actually works, you learn to focus your awareness with scientific precision. You can begin to consciously influence your reality in ways that seem miraculous, but are actually just applied quantum physics. This is exactly what I've been researching and developing for the past 3 years. I've taken these scientific principles and created a systematic protocol that teaches you how to use your consciousness as a precise tool for reality creation. Now, what I've shared with you today is just the scientific foundation. Understanding that consciousness influences reality is one thing, but knowing how to apply this knowledge systematically is something completely different. That's why I created the Quantum Breakthrough Protocol, which takes these consciousness research findings and translates them into practical, step-by-step techniques that anyone can use. It's like having a user manual for your consciousness. The protocol includes a complete assessment that identifies exactly how your consciousness is currently interfacing with reality. Personalized techniques based on your specific patterns and advanced methods for focusing your awareness with scientific precision. I've been testing this protocol with a select group of people for the past 6 months, and the results have been extraordinary. People are manifesting outcomes that seemed impossible before they understood how consciousness actually works. The complete Quantum Breakthrough Protocol is normally $197. But because you're part of our early YouTube community, I'm making it available for just $88. That's less than most people spend on entertainment in a month. But it contains the scientific breakthrough that could transform your entire relationship with reality. If you want to learn how to apply these consciousness principles systematically in your own life, the link to the Quantum Breakthrough Protocol is in the description below. But I'm only making this special pricing available to the first 500 people. because I want to personally support everyone who gets the protocol during this launch phase. Look, what we've covered today represents a fundamental shift in how science understands consciousness and reality. We're living in an incredible time where the boundaries between science and what we used to call supernatural are dissolving. Once you truly understand that your consciousness is a creative force in the universe, everything changes. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start recognizing yourself as a conscious creator of your experience. Remember to subscribe and hit the like button. See you in the next video.